Welcome, gamers! I am Monriah Titans, the host of the Weekend Game Show, where I educate on and discuss different aspects of game development to show why video games can take years to make to prevent another Cyberpunk 2077 launch scenario. And one of the ways I do this is with the Let's Read Some Shit videos, where I read aloud portions. Emphasis on portions for DMCA and copyright reasons of a couple of books regarding video games, their creation, their impact on the world, to show the legitimacy of video games as an artistic medium, and or whatever I feel like reading at the time. In addition, I also hope to promote literacy as a whole. I also provide artist shoutouts to human artists who combat AI art theft. All of them can be seen on the Become Empowered Instagram, all one word, one E in the middle, all rights reserved by the artists. Hashtag create, don't scrape. If this is something you're interested in, then you can find the other Let's Read Some Shit videos on my YouTube channel under the handle at Monriah Titans, and also on Buy Me a Coffee, where educational quotes regarding video games and literacy are also shared. If you tip through Buy Me a Coffee, 15% of the proceeds minimum go to Kids Need to Read, whose mission is to help children discover the joy of reading and the power of a literate mind. Okay. With that out of the way, I am going to show a quick update though. Share a quick update though. So, I have started. I forgot who inspired it. I think I closed their blog. But I am also going to start doing monthly wrap-ups. Share what I did during that month, how many artist shoutouts were shared, how many poems I wrote, yada yada yada. Along with, and this will be the first time I'm doing it, a yearly wrap-up, which is going to have all of the artist shoutouts done for the year, all of the poems I wrote, all of the Kickstarter items I received, because I've also been sharing those on the Monriah Titans Instagram. Monria. Thank you. Instagram, and so on and so forth. So this is going to be fun. Not being sarcastic, I've actually been going back through and creating WordPress feature images for each one to have some consistency. For the year 2023, I have made it to August, and I started doing this yesterday. I am proud of the progress. Yeah! So, without further ado, let us get to the read aloud. No, rewind. So the reason why I am doing this today instead of on a weekend is because this is actually a makeup video for missing stream 2 weeks ago, which I mentioned on the 3rd of this month. So, here we go. Alright, so these tend to go about an hour-ish, can be longer. Depends on whether or not I read something that makes me throw a tangent. And they throw a tangent. And they go as follows. Read the summary on the back of the book, if applicable. Read the foreword and preface, if applicable. If there is no introduction, read part of the first chapter. Alright, so I decided to go back to the mythology. As I mentioned before when I read a mythology-related thing, can't remember when that was. If you want to build your own mythology, your own deities, make your own myths and legends, studying the mythology that we already have is a good idea, good place to start. So, me being the fairy person that I am, I already read the Fairy Handbook. I have here the Mermaid Handbook and the Unicorn Handbook, both written by Carolyn Turgeon. I hope I said that right. Well, the word caption spelled it right, so I'm going to say yes. And I don't know, remember if I ever said this on one of these, but I was thinking about before, I can't do repeats of the same author, and then I thought about it before, why the fuck not? So, here we go. So, I will be reading portions of these books for educational purposes, but again, I will only be reading portions for DMCA and copyright reasons. So, the Mermaid Handbook. I actually read through all of this one. I think I read through all of them. I don't remember reading through all of them, but I know I read through all of them. So, a rich compendium of literature, lore, art, recipes, and projects to delight modern mermaids. Carolyn Turgeon, editor-in-chief of Fairy Magazine and author of Mermaid. Ooh. This seductive collection plumbs the depths of the mermaid's realm, a world rich with myth, mystery, history, romance, and abounding natural beauty. Gorgeous art and photography, fascinating stories and essays, do-it-yourself projects, and delicious recipes provide hours of reading and viewing pleasure for aspiring mermaids and those captivated by these exotic inhabitants of the sea. Right, moving towards the inside. I think I found my favorite poem not in this one. It was in the Fairy Fairy Handbook. Anyway, in the beginning, my gentle Puck, come hither. Thou rememberest, since once I sat upon a promontory, and heard a mermaid on a dolphin's back, uttering such dulcet and harmonious breath, that the rude sea grew civil at her song, and certain stars shot madly from their spheres to hear the sea maid's music. William Shakespeare, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Act 2, Scene 1. Alright, contents. So, there is no foreword and preface. So, I shall read the introduction and part of chapter 1. Dyscalculia's a bitch. You would think 74 minus 12 would be easy. So 74 minus 12. Wow. Part 1, chapter 1, what is that? 62 pages? Okay, yeah, I was right. Phew. So chapter 1 is 62 pages. I'm not going to read all that. So I will read for a little bit and then find a stopping point. So, introduction. The art in this is so pretty. I do remember that. This book is for mermaids, and for everyone who loves mermaids, and for everyone who secretly wants to be a mermaid deep down. It's for all those who hold conch shells to their ears to hear the ocean and its secret messages, who love the soft, iridescent beauty of a shell's interior, who have a special affinity for pearls and sea glass and aquamarine, who stalk beaches for a perfect washed-up treasure gleaming from the sand. It's also for those who love the feel of salt on their skin and in their hair, and who dream of swimming, tails stretching out behind them in the open ocean, alongside manta rays, whales, and dangerous glittering creatures who could pull you to the ocean floor without a thought, and you'd almost let them. I wasn't always one of those people. I wasn't a mermaid person, and I never secretly wanted to be one, though I loved fairy tales. Like almost every other girl of my generation, I'd grown up loving Splash and Disney's animated film The Little Mermaid. I'd spent most of my life avoiding the ocean, though. I'm not only too pale for the sun, but also have an abiding love of rain, cold weather, and generally non-oceanic terrains. When I visited the Arctic a few years ago, it was a dream come true. Plus, the ocean is terrifying. Who knows what's right there, below the surface? I wrote my novel Mermaid, a reimagining of Hans Christian Andersen's story The Little Mermaid, almost by accident. In 2008, a British publisher approached me about buying the UK rights to publish my novel Godmother, which was set to come out the following year in the United States, and asked to see what else I was working on. I detailed a few works in progress and then made a somewhat random dream list of other ideas, including something about a children's book about a mermaid. The publisher bought that idea, to my surprise, but wanted an adult novel instead. I wasn't opposed to the idea. Who wouldn't want to write about mermaids? I thought and spent some weeks trying to settle on a concept before my agent pushed me toward the Andersen tale as a source of inspiration. I loved The Little Mermaid, but thought it was far too depressing. Beautifully so, to do anything with it until one day I had this image of a human princess come to mind. Although her character is barely in the story, she's the one who marries, turning the page, the prince, leaving the mermaid broken-hearted. I imagined the princess standing on a cliff, overlooking the ocean and seeing the mermaid for the first time, an almost drowned man in her arms. That would be the kind of moment that changed a life, I thought, and I could imagine a whole book unfurling from that moment. I began writing that book in 2009, and that's when I started seeing what had been invisible to me before. Mermaids are everywhere. They peek out from subway posters, blink up from Starbucks cups, and lounge treacherously in the guise of statues, plaques, and murals in cities all over the world. When friends, and strangers on Facebook, learned I was writing the book, they sent me photographs of mermaids they came across, too. Painted on a door in Santa Fe or on the side of a boat in Germany, sculpted out of snow in Alaska, and in the flesh, posing in an old-time mermaid tank in Portland, Oregon. I started a blog, I'm a Mermaid, to capture these mermaids from around the world. That's when I realized how powerful mermaids really are, how they have held humankind in their dangerous but incredibly glamorous thrall in one form or another for millennia. Through the blog, I slowly became aware of a whole culture of people who love mermaids. More than that, I became aware of a whole culture of people who are mermaids, who, when they put on a tail, and there are many dazzling, handcrafted, realistic-looking mermaid tails available today, literally and figuratively slip into a new skin. As I met them, as I interviewed them, as I watched their videos, I realized that something wonderful and wild was happening behind all the flash and quiche. Kitsch. Women were tapping into some mystical, primitive part of themselves, something powerful and dangerous, even awe-inspiring. I heard many wonderful stories, like that of, septuagenarian? Ha! Septuagenarian. There we go. Vicky Smith, who began swimming at Weeki Wachee Springs in 1957 and who performed for Elvis Presley in 1961. She told me that returning to Weeki Wachee in her 60s was a transformative experience. Getting in that water, being weightless and free, made her feel 17 again. Bambi the Mermaid, who's attended every Coney Island Mermaid Parade for more than 25 years, described how being a mermaid helped her during her bereavement after her husband's death. Plus, mermaids never worry about their weight, or growing old, or become bogged down by insecurities, she said. And Raina of Halifax Mermaid told me how her mermaid persona strips away her usual shyness and insecurities and gives her confidence and daring. The powerful mermaid was, she realized, the outward expression of her true, tamped down inner self. tamped down. Inner self. Trying to read the captions and read at the same time. Ha! Mermaid after mermaid spoke to me of freedom and power and a feeling of pure bliss under the water, and the stories kept coming. It's hard to talk to all those sea-loving ladies and not fall in love with the sea too. Eventually, I heard the siren song myself. In 2011, 3 months after Mermaid was published, I attended Mermaid Camp at Weeki Wachee Springs. While I was apprehensive and awkward at first, and deathly afraid of the mossy-backed turtles in the spring, my first swim in a tail ended up being one of the most magical days of my life. I'll never forget the wild manatee that swam in from the adjoining river and spent all afternoon cavorting with me and a dozen or so other ladies in tails. Cavorting. I found that it's easy and fast to swim in a tail with your feet in a monofin, which propels you along, and I loved being in a community of women and immersed in the pure beauty of the spring. A few months after Weeki Wachee, I went snorkeling for the first time in St. John and was amazed at the array of fish and the way the warm light streams underwater, illuminating everything. Later that year, a friend and I planned a trip to Nicaragua, and she agreed to get scuba certified with me there on Big Corn Island, off the country's Caribbean coast. Scuba diving was not something I'd ever thought I'd do. Willingly get into the open, shark-filled ocean, especially with gear strapped to my back. When my dive instructor told me to sit on the side of the boat in my full scuba gear and just let myself fall into the water on my back, I thought she was nuts. "Be a mermaid," she said, seeing how scared I was. "You are a mermaid." For a moment I was stunned by the coincidental metaphor, until I realized it was what she said to all lady divers. So I grabbed my respirator and let myself fall, semi-convinced I would be snatched up by a shark in the process. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't sure where the surface was. A swarm of transparent, ghost-like creatures surrounded me. Disoriented, I thought it was the light at first. I froze, alone in the water, as these ghosts danced all around me. Then I realized that the creatures were real. Medusas, aka jellyfish, I'd later learn. And that they hadn't hurt me and weren't going to. I exhaled and looked down below at the reams of spectacular coral stretching out along the ocean floor. My instructor appeared then, giving me the OK sign, which in scuba diving is a question. Are you okay? I made the OK sign back to her, and we descended, jewel-covered schools of fish darting past us. Everything seemed to break open. Then I was weightless, flying through the water as this new, silent world enveloped me, with its swaying seaweed, glittering fish, tiny floating medusas. The white rocks and reefs thick with coral. It was like being in outer space, except that it's right there, under the surface of the sea. I understood the breathlessness of all the mermaids I'd spoken to over those months, the profound experiences they'd had in the water, and I cried in my mask as I experienced all that otherworldly beauty up close. I went on to scuba dive in St. Lucia, and even dove with black-tipped reef sharks on a week-long live abroad diving trip with a boat full of mermaids in the Bahamas. I never would have imagined I'd be 41 years old and diving with sharks and mermaids, but the world is like that sometimes, full of beautiful surprises. I hope you will find some of your own beautiful surprises inside this book, which celebrates the mermaid, goddess, fashion icon, muse, kitschy entertainer? Kitschy. Seductress and destroyer, in all her guises. Perhaps if you hear the sea calling, it will help you tap into your own inner mermaid, too. Carolyn Turgeon. Aw. Turgeon? Turgeon. There we go. All right. How long was that? 20-something minutes? What are the sections? Okay. So, and thankfully part 1 is split into sections. Okay. Then I will read The Mermaid, a fashion and beauty icon, which is only a page and a half, and then we'll move on to the Unicorn Handbook, because this font is tiny. Alright, so, The Mermaid, a fashion and beauty icon. Line. The mermaid possesses a natural beauty, but her aura is distinctly tinged with seduction and potential danger. After all, as some stories go, she might very well pull you to your death, whether she means to or not. And it's that combination of attractiveness, unpredictability, and mystery that has bestowed upon the mermaid a timeless allure. She is captivatingly beautiful and beguiling, and strong. With her traditionally long, flowing, sumptuous tresses, and an tresses, Tresses, and an outrageously curvaceous figure that is never clothed, save for her iridescent, powerful tail, the mermaid has always been a formidable and fashionable femme fatale, inspiring artists and writers, fashion designers and stylists, and makeup and hair looks for centuries. Part of that draw is that she is an enigma, complicated, even contradictory. She's half human, a gorgeous seductress, beckoning you to come hither as she lounges seemingly casually on a bed of rocks overlooking the ocean. But she's also half fish, encased in shimmering scales and sexually inaccessible. Despite all appearances that might indicate a human affiliation, she is otherworldly, dwelling in the depths of the sea. She joins us, then leaves us, just as quickly, plunging back down into the dark ocean depths among the sunken ships and treasure. Whereas a human who rises on the rungs of the best-dressed lists or makes waves on the red carpet often depends on a strong relationship with an individual couturier. Oh, or stylist. The mermaid doesn't need outside help. Her fashion sense is inherent. She was born with a sinuous, glittering tail that reveals her body's every curve and flares at the end with a flourish. Nonetheless, the tail is not for show, as much as it dazzles us. It allows her to move through the sea as powerfully as a shark or whale. The mermaid has been a fashion icon for millennia, and her influence has made its way into nearly every culture and era. When Project Runway host Tim Gunn was interviewed for the I Am a Mermaid blog in 2011, he said, "When we consider the catalysts that are essential for inspiration in the fashion industry, few have the staying power or the potency of mermaids, owing largely to the fact that mermaids have been part of world literature, lore, art, and artifact for such a very long time. There will always be a place for," turning the page, "mermaid-inspired fashion, provided that the designs are conceived in a manner that's relevant to the current moment. And today, more than ever, the mermaid exerts her influence. Flowy, tangly tresses, sometimes tinted blue or green for extra oceanic flavor, are everywhere on social media, as are glitzy mermaid queen crowns fashioned from shells and jewels. Gowns mimicking the mermaid's undulating shape or are perennial favorites on the red carpet and the wedding aisle. The mermaid's allure can be an all-natural or ultra-glamorous. From Disney's showy Ariel with her bright flaming hair, lavender shell top, and green tail, to Madison from Splash with her more natural bronze skin, pale flowing locks, and orange tail, to any number of other incarnations. Sadly, the mermaid hasn't fared so well as an icon of any sort. The Irish male Merrows, for example, are nothing worth looking at. Reports Catherine Briggs, referencing Crofton Crocker's tale, Soul Cages in Fairy Legends of the South of Ireland, 1825. For they have green hair and green teeth and little pig's eyes and long red noses and short arms more like flippers than any respectable arm that could do a day's work. His little poem. She walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies, and all that's best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and her eyes. Lord Byron. She walks in beauty, 1813. And that is part one of part one. So, I hope this got you interested. I'm probably going to reread this when I finish my current stack of to be read. Moving on to the Unicorn Handbook, also by Carolyn Turgeon. There. Alright, summary on the back. A fanciful anthology of literature, lore, art, recipes, and projects to delight unicorn lovers. This stunning compendium brings you into the magical realm of the unicorn, a world resplendent with myth, lore, majesty, romance, and lush natural beauty. Gorgeous fine art, photographs and illustrations, essays, do-it-yourself projects, entertaining tips, and recipes provide hours of reading, viewing, and musing pleasure for unicorn fans and aficionados, as well as those who aspire to make his rare acquaintance. Yeah, that photo right there at the beginning, that's a good one. As is the second one. So, a little poem in the beginning. The legs, so delicately shaped, balanced a body wrought of finest ivory, and as he moved, his coat shone like reflected moonlight. High on his forehead rose the magic horn, the sign of his uniqueness, a tower held upright by his alert, yet gentle, timid gait. Rainer Maria Rilke, The Unicorn, From Sonnets to Orpheus, translated by M.D. Herder Norton, 1942. And so there's an introduction, part one, flora and fauna. And apparently part one is 52 pages long, so I will find a stopping point for that. Alright, introduction. This book is about a creature so wild and dazzling, so otherworldly, yet so of this world in its most enchanting form, that you might want to bathe in purified water infused with rosemary and lavender before handling its pristine pages. Ha! Consider unplugging from your electronic appendages and possibly even retreating from humankind altogether before reading further. I'm streaming. Not streaming. I'm recording a video, so can't do that. In our modern age, the unicorn may wink out from glittery pink and purple kitty cafes, toy stores, cartoons, and frothy rainbow drinks. An icon of kitsch. Oh, that's how you pronounce it. An icon of kitsch and fizz. Kitsch and fizz. So I get it right once, and now the captions don't want to do it for me. Okay. But actual unicorns are so fantastically pure that the human eye cannot even recognize them. It's common knowledge that when the unicorn leaves the enchanted woods to explore the world beyond, it appears like a regular horse to humans. So you might want to look carefully at the next hooved creature or two you come across, just to see if you can detect some extra sparkle. In Peter S. Beagle's tome, The Last Unicorn, 1968, which I have, it's on my bookshelf. That will probably be part of the next Let's Read Some Shit. Anyway, When people gaze upon a unicorn, they see only an old white nag, which begs the question, how many normal-looking creatures, animals and humans alike, are actually unicorns? Even more than the mermaid, with her come-hither sexuality, or fairies with their mischievous penchant for whisking humans off to fairyland, the unicorn is unadulterated glamour, divinity on earth, the purest heart of the forest, and untouchable. When unicorns deign to hang out with humans at all, they prefer to pass the time with virginal ladies, and, if possible, ones with long, lustrous hair who don't mind hanging out by streams with clear waters that glisten like diamonds, or petting them and protecting them from the occasional wild-eyed hunter. Sadly, hunters have taken advantage of the unicorn's fondness for napping upon virginal laps to capture and even kill these stunning beauties. What is a unicorn, pray tell? Proud, strong, swift, majestic, and magnificently handsome. The unicorn is a magical male animal whose name derives from the Latin words unus, U-N-U-S, okay, one, and cornu, horn. Oh, I got that. The unicorn's ferocity makes him a formidable foe, and he is said to be the opponent of both the elephant and the lion, two of the most powerful animals on Earth. The unicorn lives alone, deep in an enchanted forest, and is rarely seen by humans. Those who have the good fortune of spying one are lucky indeed. They are also most likely virgins or enchanted beings too. Love this photo. Anyway, the only way to tame or capture a unicorn, in fact, is to entice him with his ultimate weakness, a young woman who has never known a man, or woman, as the unicorn is downright docile in a virgin's hands. He'll approach her gently, put his head in her lap, and even fall asleep. In antiquity, there was no one single vision of what a unicorn looked like, but writers like the Greek physician Ctesias, I'll spell it, Ctesias, Ctesias. Okay. 400 BCE, in his book Indica on India, and Aristotle in Historia Animalium, the history of animals, 350 BCE, described one-horned animals that looked like bulls, antelopes, oryx, and dozens of other things. For more on Ctesias and Aristotle, see page 122. I'm not reading that far. I might jump to the page, though. In Europe, during medieval times, the unicorn's regal bearing was considered not only aristocratic, but also the embodiment of chivalric ideas, making him an essential companion for every knight. Artists of the day portrayed the unicorn as white, with an elegant and refined frame, like a fine horse, yet smaller, more the size of a goat or a sheep. His mane and face are adorned with long, thick, curly clusters of silky hair, his hooves are cloven, and his tail is tufted like a lion's. His single horn is a long spiral that extends straight from his forehead and is most often white, although some medieval texts and illustrations it was described as gold or red, or black and white, or various combinations of these colors. In one of the most famous pieces of unicorn art, Raphael's Portrait of a Lady with a Unicorn, see page 75, the virginal lady cradles what appears to be a horned baby goat. When we think of a unicorn now, the picture that most commonly comes to mind is that of a large, elegant white horse with a long spiral horn on its head, or perhaps something like the white or rainbow-colored stuffed animals sparkling with glitter that populate the shelves of toy stores. But, like so many of our modern images, these visions are inspired by advertising and the movies. It's impossible to cast real unicorns, of course, as they are not only wild, making them impossible to please on set, but also so rare that their presence commands an extraordinary fee and share of the profits. Alright. This is why contemporary photographers, artists, film and television directors, and advertising creatives use horses and simply add the horn. And if employing a horse isn't in the budget, they use a goat or lamb, which fools most of the people most of the time. But forget all that. Imagine yourself standing next to a glittering brook flowing through a deep forest glade. Here, flowering vines drape over everything like starlets and on old-time chase lounges. Chaise. Branches twist, covered in moss. Sunlight spills through the leaves, bright green and shaped like hearts to decorate the forest floor. Birds sing and foxes dart and butterflies flit about, showing off the latest fashions. The brook burbles and shimmering fish rise to the surface of the water, which is so clear you can see the grassy bottom. Around you, imagine every kind of flower blooming all at once, the clean, perfumed air, the bees buzzing from the bulb to bulb. Bees buzzing from bulb to bulb. The riot of colors and scents. Trace your fingers upon the tree bark. Step barefoot on the petals that have fallen and marked out your path. Breathe in as you center the deep heart of the forest. This is where you'll find a real unicorn, most likely loping gracefully about or lying in a bed of moss, snacking on sweet forest berries, its head gently laid upon a virgin's lap. Come on, let's go say hello. Carolyn Turgeon. Turgeon. Thank you. All right, part 1. As much as I feel like reading. Anyway. I am getting hungry. All right. The unicorn horn. The horn of a unicorn is a great treasure, in part because of its rarity, but also, more importantly, for its many wonderful properties. Powdered unicorn horn can be used as an aphrodisiac? Oh, and to treat a variety of ailments. The horn can also detect poison, which often bubbles in its presence. If the horn is dipped in poisoned food or drink, it will neutralize the toxin. Ctesias, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Ctesias, okay, proclaimed the horn's ability to do this in the book Indica. As was true of many encyclopedists, at a time when travel was very difficult, he learned this information secondhand while living at the Persian court for 17 years. There are in India certain wild asses, which are as large as horses and larger. Ctesias wrote, their bodies are white, their heads dark red, and their eyes dark blue. They have a horn on the forehead, which is about 1.5 feet in length. The dust filled from the horn is administered in a potion as a protection against deadly drugs. The base of this horn, for some 2 hands' breadth above the brow, is pure white. The upper part is sharp and of a vivid crimson, and the remainder or middle portion is black. Those who drink out of these horns, made into drinking vessels, are not subject, they say, to convulsions or to the holy disease, epilepsy. Indeed, they are immune even to poison. If either before or after swallowing such, they drink wine, water, or anything else from the beakers. Be right back. I wanted to finish this before the honey got home. It's fine. I'm going to finish this part for the unicorn horn. All right. He wanted a hug. So, 2,000 years later, no one questioned Ctesias' description. Vessels made from unicorn horn were most valuable in the royal courts of the Middle Ages and Renaissance, when the world was rife with political plotting and power changed hands at the drop of a poison potion. Throughout history, there are numerous descriptions of people owing their lives to the unicorn horn's remarkable ability to detect and neutralize poison. Spanish conquistador Alvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca wrote in his account of a journey down the Paraguay River in 1543 that 3 attempts were made to poison him with arsenic, all thwarted by a piece of unicorn horn. While en route downriver, the officials ordered Juan Machin, a Biscayan, to cook up something to eat for the governor, Cabeza de Vaca. And after cooking some food, Machin handed it over to Juan Lope Duarte. These men were both cronies of the officials and of Domingan de Irala. Irala? Irala. Irala. And as guilty as all the others who had taken the governor prisoner. Turning the page. Duarte had come along as Irala's solicitor and to carry out his business on the ship, and in front of the guards, and with their blessing, he slipped arsenic to the governor 3 times. Well, the governor carried along with him a bottle of oil and a piece of the horn of a unicorn, and whenever he sensed he had been poisoned, he used these remedies day and night. It was a very difficult business, involving tremendous vomiting, and it pleased God that he came out of it all right. In the book, The Treaty of the Unicorn, Its Wonderful Properties and Its Uses, 1573, the Italian scholar and naturalist Andrea Bacci, or is it Bassi? Bacci, recounted the story of a man who ate a poisoned cherry, but was saved by drinking some powdered unicorn horn dissolved in wine. And the Pulitzer Prize-winning American scholar and unicorn expert Odell Shepard supported this notion in his classic, The Lore of the Unicorn, 1930. He explained that Grand Inquisitor Tomás de Torquemada, Torquemada, MADA, 1420 to 98, always kept a piece of alicorn on his table as a precaution against the wiles of his numerous enemies, while Spanish and English explorers of America carried unicorn horn as conscientiously as quinine, 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 is carried today by travelers in tropical countries. Unicorn horn also offered renewed strength and vigor, prolonged youth, was an aphrodisiac, and could remove any contagion from the body, and continued to appear in medical and pharmaceutical textbooks into the 1700s. German mystic Hildegard of Bingen, 1098 to 1179, believed the entire unicorn had healing medicinal qualities. She wrote that on the animal's head, under its horn, was a piece of metal as transparent as glass, in which a man may see his face. In her medical book, Physica, written in the 1150s, she described a cure for leprosy made from an unguent How do you say that? Where'd it go? Unguent? Unguent. Guent. Of egg yolks and powdered unicorn's liver. That worked. Unless the leper in question happens to be one whom death is determined to have, or else one whom God does not wish to be cured. Uh-huh. Cop out. Also, if a belt is made of the unicorn's hide and worn around the waist over the skin, it will preserve one from the dangers of pestilence and of fevers. Cures in the Middle Ages often combined both bezoar, Bezoar, solid masses from the intestines of goats, sheep, deer, and other animals, and unicorn horn, sometimes mixed with ground pearls, a favorite medicine of Henry VIII, and staghorn. And staghorn. Clearly, this kind of health was reserved for the rich and powerful. Peasant made do with poultices of herbs and dung. Ew. By the 1600s, most physicians agreed that bezoar stones and powdered unicorn horn were the two most potent of all-purpose medicines to be found anywhere. In The English Physician, 1653, English physician and botanist Nicholas Culpeper wrote, "The unicorn's horn resists poison, and the pestilence provokes urine, restores lost strength, brings forth both birth and afterbirth." Whatever that means. In his 1678 text, The New London Dispensatory, English physician William Salmon, or is that supposed to be pronounced salmon? Since that's how it's spelled, described unicorn horn's medicinal uses as alexipharmic, sudorific, cardiac, antifibritic. What are these words? Antifibritic. I'll spell that one because it's interesting. Antifebritic. And cephalic. In other words, the horn counteracts poison, causes sweating, restores heart function, reduces fever, and neutralizes disorders of the head. Cool. Lest one still have doubts about the power of unicorn horn, he continued, it potently resists plague, pestilence, and poison, expels the measles and smallpox, and cures the falling sickness in children. The fuck is the falling sickness? Anyway, was all this medicine really made of unicorn horn? Certainly, doctors, pharmacists, and their patients believed it was. But considering how rare unicorns are, how difficult they are to catch, the scarcity of virgins generally, and how often narwhal tusks were sold as unicorn horns. See Narwhals, Not Really Unicorn Horns of the Sea, page 53. It's likely that some of what passed for unicorn horn actually came from narwhals. And who knows what other trickery was afoot. Powdered unicorn horn, or what was believed to be powdered unicorn horn, was expensive, but not all that difficult to find. Most apothecaries carried it. While today we think of the caduceus as the symbol of medicine, in the 1600s and 1700s, pharmacists displayed a unicorn head, or simply the horn, to let people know what they were selling. Some of these figureheads still exist, especially in Hungary and the Czech Republic. The coat of arms of the Worshipful Society of Apothecaries, founded in 1617 in London and still extant today. EXTANT. EXTANT. Thank you. Covers all the bases when it comes to magical healing. The crest contains Apollo, the god of medicine, overpowering a dragon representing disease. Aww. On either side of the crest are 2 unicorns whose healing properties were well known. Above the crest is the plumed helmet of a noble. The Society's original charter granted the Society the honor of displaying the symbol of nobility to underscore the Society's excellence and high standards. Above that is a rhinoceros with a horn on its snout and another on its withers. Like the unicorn, powdered rhino horn was believed to have medicinal properties. The motto beneath is a passage from Ovid's Metamorphoses. I think that's Latin. I never learned Latin. Let's see how I do with this pronunciation. Opferque per orbem dicor. I tried. Which means, throughout the world they speak of me as a bringer of help. Aha. And that is the end of the unicorn horn. And this is where I'm going to call it at 52 minutes and 54. Well, that's when I stopped reading. Like I said in the beginning, these tend to go about an hour-ish. I was going to say something, I forgot. Oh, and that concludes the reading of portions of the Mermaid Handbook and the Unicorn Handbook, both written by Carolyn Turgeon. Yay. It did it. Alrighty then. And so this brings us to closing. Yay. Again, if this is something you would like to support, go to the buymeacoffee.com/MariahTitans. If you support through there, join in on the... What are they called again? I just updated this. Monthly memberships. Apparently I'm tired from the reading. This is interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. Anyway. If you join up with the monthly memberships, your name will appear in the credits of the Read Aloud videos. I can talk. But, there are other ways to support as well. If you have any interest in my art, you can go to the Titans Mariah Ko-fi. If you just want to support the stream in general, that's Mariah Titans WGS Ko-fi. And I mentioned in the beginning, I do artist shoutouts. If you would like to help me boost those artist shoutouts through social media ads and whatnot, then you can donate to the artist shoutouts Ko-fi. But my favorite affiliation is Bookshop.org, what I like to call the Etsy for small business bookstores. You want to buy more books, get as far away from Amazon as possible, support me and the channel. That's 3 skips with a stone, isn't it? Instead of 3 birds, 1 stone. Why are we killing birds? 3 skips with a stone, as in skipping a stone over the top of a lake. Me likey. And since we're not on Twitch where you can use the command, the bookshop is bookshop.org/shop/Monriah Titans. And, well, you can see the logo down there to the left. I don't need to spell it. Yay! And now we come to a close. Remember, we are gamers not because we don't have a life, but because we choose to have many, which can also be said of readers. If anyone asks why you like video games, remind them a game is a problem-solving activity approached with a playful attitude, a quote by Jesse Schell. And if anyone gives you shit for your interest, tell them you may not like video games, but what I learned from them is this: no enemies in front of you means you are going the wrong way. That needs to be put on a shirt. Thank you for watching. may every decision you make in the future be in the spirit of fairness, and may the rest of your day not go to shit. See you next time. Bye.